good morning, everyone. All information contained herein is provided solely for educational purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for professional or legal advice. Should you decide to act upon any information contained in this presentation, you do so at your own risk. While the information posted has been verified to the best of our abilities, we cannot guarantee that there are no mistakes or errors. This is the Enviroschool program at the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. Today, we are presenting Understanding Public Participation. I'm Tamika Priolo, Coordinator for Enviroschool, and I will be moderating today. We will be muting everyone except for the speaker. However, just as a precaution, go ahead and keep yourself muted individually as well. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the Q&A option and not the chat, because we won't be monitoring the chat for questions. So any questions you want the speaker to ask, type them in the Q&A, and you should see it below on the bar. Type in your questions and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Slides and a recording of this webinar will be available on the Enviroschool website. There will be a poll at the end of this webinar to provide your feedback so we can improve our sessions. So please complete before logging off. Any other comments that you want to add, any questions that you have, any concerns, please email me at enviroschool@la.gov. Our speaker today is Beth Altazan. Beth has a degree in liberal arts from the University of Mississippi in Oxford. Beth is an environmental project specialist and has worked at LDEQ for the last 28.5 years. She began working in the Department in Water Enforcement and has also worked in the Small Business Assistance Program. Beth has worked with the Public Participation Group for the last 8 years. During that time, she has been writing public notices and helping to facilitate public hearings. Beth, you may begin.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Enviroschool on Understanding Public Participation. Like Tamika said, my name is Beth Altazan, and I'll be presenting today on behalf of the Public Participation and Database Support Group. You can see in this 2021 department structure, the Office of Environmental Services is comprised of air, water, and waste permitting groups, and at the bottom, the Public Participation and Public Support Group division is at the very bottom of that slide. There are two sections in the PPPSD, which is the Public Participation and Public Support Division. Our group is part of the Permit Support and LDEQ section. Subtitle 2 of Title 30 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes RS 30:2001, Environmental Regulatory Codes LAC 33, and the Code of Federal Regulations 40 CFR stipulate that the PPPSG issues public notices and conducts public hearings and public meetings regarding environmental permitting or other agency activities. Our group, however, focuses on involving the public by giving our constituency appropriate opportunities to be a part of environmental decision-making. These decisions can affect their health, the environmental surroundings, and their lives. Community residents of potentially affected areas can have meaningful involvement in the decision-making process. And to do so, residents can participate in the decision-making about proposed permitting activity. Their contribution can have an influence on the department's final decision regarding the permitted activities. These concerns of all involved are considered in the decision-making process. The decision makers seek out and facilitate the involvement of the potentially affected people who are most specifically through issuing public notices and hosting public hearings around the state. The PPPDSG, which is the Public Participation and Database Management Support Group, we also are involved in other issues in DEQ. We work with different permitting activities, such as draft decisions and the involvement in rulemaking processes. Please note that the PPDSG also conducts meetings for different areas of DEQ, such as remediation, legal settlements, or other issues. So, what information is available to the public? Information specifically related to permitting activities are items such as permit applications, draft permits, statements of basis or fact sheets, environmental assessment statements, all correspondence and previous information submitted to or generated by DEQ. LDEQ openly provides access to permitting information during the permit process. This information can be accessed through the LDEQ Environmental Document Management System, which is EDMS, on our website at https://www.deq.louisiana.gov/page/EDMS, or by contacting or visiting our Public Records Center at the LDEQ headquarters building at 602 North 5th Street in Baton Rouge. Hard copy information can be found at public libraries and other repositories, the LDEQ webpage, and at all of the LDEQ regional offices. How is the public notified of permitting activities? One of the primary functions of our section is issuing public notices. Public notices are notifications by the agency that are published to inform the public of various permitting actions. And those actions may include the receipt of a permit application, the issue of a draft permit, or the scheduling of a public hearing. State and federal regulations for the different media, such as air, water, solid, and hazardous waste, require public notices to be published for major permitting activity. The public is informed of the statutes of all of the major permits at the following stages. For solid and hazardous waste, the facility publishes their own public notices, notifying the public that they're going to submit a permit application to DEQ. And that is done before an application is submitted to our department. When an application is received by DEQ, like when DEQ sends out a public notice for the receipt of a hazardous waste application, the permit application is determined to be administratively complete, a draft or proposed permit, and the agency's final decision regarding a permit. Public notices are posted and disseminated in several ways to inform the public regarding the LDEQ's permitting activities. We do that by publishing them on the LDEQ Public Notices webpage at www.deq.louisiana.gov/public-notices. They're only published in local newspapers, as well as the Advocate in Baton Rouge for solid waste permits and hazardous waste permits. Biosolids are published only in the local newspapers. Radio announcements are aired for hazardous waste draft permits, and our group also sends public notices to the DEQ public notice hard copy and mailing list. So, as a member of the public, how can you participate in the permitting process? To participate, you can review the permit package material by visiting the parish's branch library closest to the applicant's facility, or by accessing the information on the LDEQ's EDMS system. You're also invited to participate in public hearings or public meetings for specific permit activities. At public hearings and public meetings, all participants are allowed to speak their comments into the legal record for pre-application drafts or whatever other permitting activity we host the hearing for. Also, during the comment period, all members of the public are able to submit written comments for any of the permit's activities. Why do you want to participate? You may have firsthand knowledge or specific information that would help the agency and help them consider as they make a final decision. All comments, whether in writing, verbalized on the record at a public hearing, or submitted online are considered and addressed. But the comments that are truly relevant to the permit issues will have the most effect on the final decision. For example, simply stating that you're opposed to a permit action is not as effective as saying the reasons behind why you're opposed. There are several tips to making relevant and meaningful comments. First, and most importantly, be very specific. Why are you interested in this facility or proposed document? Be clear about the document you wish to comment upon by giving the agency interest number, which is an AI number, or an activity tracking number, which is a PER number, or a permit number, something really specific to that activity. What issues or problems exist in the draft permit? If you're able to cite statutes or regulations, guidance documents, any kind of written material, or attach them to your documentation that supports or opposes your opinion or comment, will really be helpful for us. You may choose to state an opposing opinion by proposing alternative solutions with supporting data as well. Reviewing the data and technical reports may assist in more specific comments on conclusions, implementation plans, or other projects involved. It is also productive to check for omissions, accuracy, and consistency. As in anything, we're human and there are mistakes made at times. You can develop your comment using resources available to you by contacting any of the following. We have government officials, enforcement officers, permit writers and community liaisons, or local state environmental offices. We also have regional offices, technical assistance providers, university personnel, and as a member of the public, you may consider requesting a meeting with the permitting authority to resolve your issues with it, or by requesting public hearings or public meetings. Public comments can be sent to the LDEQ during comment periods. The comment period end date is determined by the number of days following publication and by media. The comment period end date is published in the public notice, and the date varies depending on the different media regulations, which you'll see in the table that's up on the screen right now. For air permits, it's a minimum of 30 days. Hazardous waste permits, it's a minimum of 45 days. Solid waste permits is a minimum of 30 days, and so is water permits. Public comments can also be submitted by mail to the Public Participation Database Support Group at P.O. Box 4313, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821. Fax to us also at 225-219-3309. By email to deq.publicnotices@la.gov and online at www.deq.louisiana.gov/public-notices. This last online feature is very new. It's also something we're really proud of. It's a new feature that we've had developed to submit comments online. This feature is located online, as mentioned before, at www.louisiana.gov/public-notices. And you'll see on the screen, there's a red arrow next to the public notice for the Village of Summit Hall sewer treatment plant. You simply click on the comment URL and it brings up a comment form. And it's very straightforward for you to be able to send your comments in online. We highly recommend using this because it's sent directly to us. All right. The PPDSG facilitates two types of meetings typically. We facilitate public hearings and public meetings. Hearings are more formal and structured per the statutes. They are not question and answer format. However, they are transcribed by a court report and become part of the official administrative record. Public meetings are less formal, and there are no formal time limitations like public hearings have. And the facility or permitting agency answers questions during public meetings, but it does not become part of the record. I said before, public hearings provide formal opportunity for the public to present comments and oral testimony on a proposed action. These testimonies given during the hearing are transcribed and official record by a court reporter. The hearing is not question and answer. We do not answer questions. It's specifically for the record. And this is what a typical public hearing looks like. Now, how can I request a public hearing to be held? That gets asked a lot. You can add the request for a public hearing to be held when you submit your comments during the comment period. You can include the reason for your request for the hearing and identify who you represent, whether it's yourself or a group or community. The approval by the administrative authority for a public hearing is based on the following: the basis of the request and whether or not there's significant degree of public interest in the proposed action. The state administrative authority may also hold a public hearing at his or her discretion whenever a hearing might clarify one or more of the issues involved in the action. Who approves the request for public hearings? Some public hearings are required by regulations, while others are granted on a case-by-case basis. The Administrative Secretary of the Office of Environmental Services has the authority to approve or deny these requests. If you're unable to attend a public hearing, copies of all of the documents that are listed below are available to you on EDMS. We submit a public hearing packet with the following information after we receive the court reporter's transcript information. We submit a public notice, the transcript, our hearing officer's report, copies of the speaker registration forms, requests for final decision, and what exhibits were received. Sometimes we even post a copy of their exhibit if we have them. We also post the numbers in EDMS that can connect you to the hearing maps that are used for display purposes. Public meetings may be requested to clarify information relating to an agency action. They also may be requested by contacting the responsible administrative authority related to the particular site or issues. They can also be requested through our group. How are comments used? We get asked this a lot at hearings. And please note that every comment is addressed. Upon receipt, the public participation group sends the original comment to our EDMS system, and a copy is given to each permit writer. The permit writer reviews the comments and uses any appropriate additional information in updating the draft permit. The commenter's name and information is also added to a comment database that we use and we maintain. Also, a final draft of the permit in response to the public comments is prepared and forwarded to the Office of Environmental Services Assistant Secretary for final approval. Upon issuance or denial of a permit, a postcard with the final decision and instructions on how to access the basis of decision in response to the comments is mailed to all of those who made comments, all those who requested to be notified of the final decision, as well as the applicant and petitioner. Okay. Next is going to be a sample of a public notice that we submit to either the newspapers or web for publication. You'll see that it includes the current mailing and physical address of the facility, what the actual permittee is proposing, and a lot of contact information on when the comments are due, that specific date, all of our email addresses and how to submit comments, phone numbers, email addresses, etc. The location of EDMS online that you can also access anytime, how to contact us yet again, to be included on the mailing list for electronic or hard copy mailing, as well as permit documentation is like the draft permit, the statement of basis. Please be sure to include in your comments or anything that you're trying to communicate with us, an AI number, permit number, and activity number whenever you have it. Those are listed as well. It also lists online the date that it's going to be published. So the last few slides are resources that you can use. Our website, the EPA guides, EPA public documents. We also have frequently used terms and acronyms, such as the AI number, which is the agency interest number. That's the number of the facility. The agency tracking number, which is a link to a specific permit action they use for tracking that specific activity, and that activity is documentation. And the permit number, which is specific and media specific identifiers for us as well. You also have definitions of the public notice, the public comment period, and what a public hearing is versus a public meeting. These are our contact information for DEQ for 2021. Our environmental scientist manager is Paul Bergeron, and his phone number is 225-219-3789, and his email is paul.bergeron@la.gov. And our environmental scientist supervisor is Tommy Milam, and her number is 225-219-3276. Email tommy.milam@la.gov.
And y'all can get in touch with either one of us if you need any information about any of the information you've learned here today.
Thank you so much for participating. We'll now open it up for question and answer, and I'll hand it back over to Tamika. Thank you very much for tuning in.